Hello and welcome to the Defining Your Niche podcast, where we dig into alternative asset classes in commercial real estate, especially small bay flex, and today self-storage. I am very excited to be joined by somebody who is ever present. Everyone knows who she is. She's just such a ball of energy. Really excited to welcome the Director of Business Development for StorSuite, Jessica Johnson. Jessica, thanks so much for agreeing to come and spend some time with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And thanks for the shout out there. Yes, I like to be present. I am a nerd about self-storage. I love this industry. I love the people, and I love being out and about, seeing everybody at the shows.
We're going to dig into your modus operandi later in the podcast, but I always start with the same question, which is storage is such a niche industry. Very, very few people. I've had a few. I had Brett Copper on the other day. He was born into it. John Lindsay. Unless you're born into this industry, it's not really something you sit in fourth grade when your teacher asks you what you want to be when you grow up. Nobody answers, "I want to be in self storage." But it's such a great industry. I love to get the stories of how people found themselves here. So take me on the journey of Jessica Johnson falling in love with storage and getting into this industry.
Yeah, this industry fell into my lap. Met some folks at the time, and they were developing a new business model, and I was going to be brought in to help build this new business model. And it was a business model for professional employment organizations, basically a marketplace that we could sell to them, similar to like Amazon that had both like B2B and B2C offers on it, because they could reach workplace employees and then they could reach the client. So it was kind of multi-layer. And when I got in, they also had this storage business. So they had many different divisions, serial entrepreneurs that I was working with. And while this was like up and running, unfortunately, the original model that they wanted to try to start didn't work. We had this self-storage model. And it's like, well, hey, do you want to do work over on the self-storage side? And I was kind of like, well, not really, I didn't really, I'm like renting air. Like there's nothing, like everybody jokes, there's nothing sexy about self-storage, right? And as I started to kind of dig into it and attend the shows and learn about the value and the money that can really be made in commercial real estate, I was like,
Yeah.
and I fell into the right spot at the right time. Totally went into it thinking that we were doing something different with the leadership at the time. And again, like I said, that unfortunately didn't pan out the way we thought it would. It didn't launch. It was like a failure to launch, essentially, sadly.
Yeah.
Great idea, just hard to get the penetration that we were looking for. And then it was like, oh, well, here's this self-storage thing, do this. And I'm like, sure. And that's how I'm here. It happened
Isn't
to
it isn't it funny how one door closes and typically opens up one you didn't think of, you didn't expect, but ends up being better than you ever could have expected.
way better. I had always been a user of storage. And now that I'm like in it, I'm like that nerd that drives by and like, that's a beautiful facility, or, oh no, that one needs its doors painted, right? So I'm very attuned and very aware in my markets that I drive of all those lovely facilities that are out there in the
It
US.
it's so funny you brought something up about storage not really being sexy. One of the first people I ever met in this industry was Bill Leitner, a developer out of Alabama, and he was sitting down with me. His daughter was getting her degree in economics from Princeton at the time, so smart
Yep.
cookie. And she used to bust his chops about storage, and was like, "That's not sexy, Dad." And he was like, "Except for the P&L, right? Like you just talked about it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe not sexy on the outside, but when you get into the dynamics, and you brought something up about commercial real estate, and one of the things that drew me to it as well, there's money to be made in the industry.
There is. There's money to be lost too. See more being made, usually. I tell you, when you have a good location and debt is finally paid off, whenever you can get to the point of paying debt off, you can start to print some money essentially in some of these spots.
It's
That takes time. It does not happen when you open the door. And there are some that are fortunate that open the door and have turnkey operations. I know many owners that have. It's a wide variety that I've seen. So.
it's been interesting for me having got into the industry in August of 2021, literally at the peak of the COVID boom, and
Ooh,
just seeing that, like, the fast forward to 2025 and what a lease up looks like on a new development is vastly different than what it was in 2021.
there is very much so, very much so. And I'd say we're in a normal cycle right now of self
Yeah.
storage. Um, while we loved the COVID period, and I always feel so guilty saying I love the COVID period. I have friends that are in the bar and restaurant industry that lost their
Yeah.
business during that time,
Yep.
or other small business owners that I know. And I'm over here going like, oh, we're living our best years of our life.
Yep.
That's an anomaly, though, and I really hope people understand the anomaly. We're in a traditional trend right now.
Yeah, I think I was reading a couple numbers the other day, like a 63% increase in rental rates during that 2 year period, and then we've had a drop, like 35%. Do the math, you're still up 28% in a 4 or 5 year period. It's not a terrible, long-term trend in any way, shape, or form. And to your point, normal cycle, like, and if you didn't plan for that, maybe you were a little bit of a rose-colored glasses at the time.
I think we see a lot of that in the industry, and it's unfortunate, right? Um,
Yeah.
because they came in at the boom, and now we're not in a boom, and they're panicking. But rest assured, if you mind the process and work the process, you will survive. Just got
Yeah.
to figure out what that process is.
Yeah, and underwrite and do deals based on historical, not on a 2 year time period. And you use the word anomaly, which is the best word you can use, right? You can't underwrite to an anomaly that doesn't tend to work long term. All right, we could talk about this all day, and maybe we'll get back to it a little bit longer. But I wanna spend a little more time talking about Jessica Johnson. I
Awesome.
got to know you, and it's a miracle that you haven't been on the podcast earlier, honestly, because we run into each other all the time at trade shows.
Yeah,
Um, you literally, I don't even know what SBOA does, and I know that's your past job, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about them on this podcast. But I'm laughing because I don't know SBOA except for I know when I think SBOA, I think Jessica Johnson, which is kind of funny because you don't even work there anymore. But
I know.
this is a long-winded way of getting to a question, which is you have an ability, and I'm interested to know where it came from of just being out there, and people know who you are, and what is it that kind of triggers your ability to go to a trade show, be on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and just be able to make connections like that.
Yeah, I think it's like a couple elements that I would say get me there. Number one, I'm an extrovert, but I'm an extroverted introvert, if that makes sense. When
Yep.
I'm on at a trade show, which you have to be on at a trade show, uh,
Yeah.
I'm full throttle. I mean, it is full throttle, all gas, no brakes, right? But at the end of the day, I'm like Batman. I got to go back to the Bat Cave and I got to plug in and like get re-energized, right?
Yep.
By like 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'm tired of talking to people. I want to go to my room, but you might see me out even a little bit later just because that's where like the magic happens through networking and talking to people. So I think that when I really became more forward facing in my storage industry role was during the peak of COVID. So there was no way to go out and shake hands and meet people. The way to get out there was through social media. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a fan of social media. I believe in the power of social media. I have a marketing background. I study social media. I've tested it. I use it. I mean, I see the power in it. And I just figured that out for my own self and personal branding to get my name out there. I've been approached by so many people that I've never met in my life. And they're like, you're that Jessica Johnson girl from SBOA. Hopefully they stay from StorSuite now. But and it was just because I was consistent in what I did. I was on social every day, posting something, whether it was something about me personally or about the business side, a tip that I could give, an upcoming event that we were hosting. Obviously, the SBOA had an educational element to it. So, a lot of opportunities to promote events and things that we were doing. So, I think those two, just me being an extrovert, me having to become forward facing during the COVID period, I knew the way to get my message out there was through social media and that continues to work for me. Like I said, even to this day, I meet so many people I've never met before that come to me and say they know who I am through watching me on YouTube or seeing me out at the events, speaking at the events. I like to
Yeah.
share my knowledge, especially as it relates to marketing specifically, as well as operations. So just those things. I'm involved in two of the boards in the industry. I sit on the Florida Association board. I'm the past president for that board. I sit on the Michigan board. Trying to get on that Texas board. I've been trying for a couple years, and I'm just going to keep doing that. I've tried for the national board, and it's not for the recognition. It's because of the impact that I want to help the industry make and keep the industry safeguarded from some of that renegade behavior that we see
Yeah.
sometimes on the social media platforms. I just kind of want to keep reining that in to keep our industry protected. And
It's easy to build a 120,000 square foot self storage facility in any random market. Come on.
sell their stuff if they don't pay you. If I see one more of their comments, I'm going to lose my marbles over it. So, yeah, I mean, and it's again, it's a personality trait. I was a cheerleader and a trained dancer my entire life. It's just kind of like chemically, I guess, who I am. So,
I want to dig in a little bit to this idea. Look, as someone who uses social media, it's hard to be consistent, right? Like we go through it. I've been sick a few times over the last 6 months. It's hard to get up when you're not feeling well. You have a job, you have kids, you have a life, you have all these other things to do, and can be consistent with something that doesn't necessarily, like, you don't make a post on LinkedIn and someone sends you $100 check for it, right? That's not the way that
yeah,
works out. So I'm interested to a two-part question. First,
sure.
how do you stay consistent being present daily without that immediate gratification? And then the second piece of it, where is the ROI? Where is the return on that time and energy investment?
Yeah, and that's a loaded question, honestly, and it's a good question. Staying consistent, I've really just built it. I love the word algorithm because that's what we're studying in social media, right? It's in my
Yeah,
personal daily algorithm. It's in my schedule. And like that's a behavioral change that we've had as humans just with social media, right? I wake up, I mean, years ago, I never picked this thing up as much as I picked this dang thing up now. But I wake up in the morning, I check my calendar, I check all of my social um, accounts, and I check my email. Like that's part of my day. And part of my day is posting. I don't post every single day, but usually Monday through Friday, you'll see some level of a post from me. Weekends, I try to keep away, especially on LinkedIn, right? But on others like Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And I've let people into my personal life too. Some are like, maybe you've gone too far. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I don't know. But I want people to know me in my personal life and business because I am different. And most people are like, you act differently in your personal surroundings versus your business surroundings. So I think if you can just build it as part of like your daily routine, you can stay consistent. I mean, I love the stuff like you do and Jeremiah Boucher does, where you pop on and you're doing your morning walk or your morning exercise and you're like live talking to your audience through that. I have not tested that type of content, but I follow a ton of social media experts. I listen to their podcasts, and that content is actually rendering really good results. So I want to start testing that type of content. Um, and you just have to remain consistent. And you have to be present on all these different platforms. There's different people watching on different platforms.
how has that played itself out in terms of a return to, at the end of the day, this is our business, right? We're here to make a living and here to put food on the table. How's that played out as far as a financial return for Jessica Johnson?
Yeah, the sales cycle, if you will, or how whenever I got that ROI takes a long time. It's honestly, I don't think you could put a price tag on relational value, and you get
Yeah,
relational value through social media marketing. You get relational value through networking. You get relational value through doing things like this, through going to the shows. I have built a huge base of relational value that has then turned into business because people know, like, and trust me because of that relational value. And they come to me to use my services. Or if I don't have a service that they need, they come to me to see who I know that has
I
the
can do
service
it.
that they need. So it's just this compounding metric that just happens over time. No, did I do a social media post on day one and have $1,000 check? Absolutely not. It takes time. But it led to bigger paychecks, if that makes sense, because I'm getting clients that have bigger portfolios, again, that have known me for years and built relationships with me for those years. So,
I love that. You said something that I thought was very powerful, and it's something super important to me, which is I don't like to do business with people I don't vibe with, that I don't align with, that I don't want to spend time on the phone with, right? And so it's one of the reasons I'm out there on social media. I want people to know who I am. You know exactly who I am. There's no hiding it. And if you don't like who I am, great. That's perfect. I got, fortunately some people who do. And I think you've captured that very, very, very well. You understand the idea of like attraction and something that a sales mentor taught me, far better to attract business than to go chase business, right? And, from afar, and someone who doesn't know you super well but knows you through our business,
yeah.
kudos, because you've done an absolutely amazing job of putting your name out there and attaching an immediate understanding of who you are to that without having to spend hours upon hours to getting to know you, which I think is magical.
Yeah, thank you. I'll say two things to that point. On the relational side and not doing business with people that you don't know, like, or trust. I had a friend in the industry that we've been friends for years, um, came to me. So that, like you said, the law of attraction, I didn't have to go chase, came to me, requested a bid, kind of gave me what the others were giving him for quotes too, because he's like, I really want you to win this quote, right? He's not going to do that for the average salesperson that you don't
100%.
know. They're just not. And this is a huge pet peeve of mine as it relates to social media marketing and being in sales with social media marketing. I cannot stand those that land in my inbox that have not done due diligence, where I can tell it's an auto generated response or
Yeah.
email. Um, for instance, I had one that wanted to sell me services in the apartment industry. I don't do multifamily,
Dude.
I do storage. You even read what I do, it's an
Yeah.
instant turn off, and it takes me a little bit of self control not to respond back, not in a harsh manner, but in a manner of like, did you do due diligence here? Like, you don't know me, you're approaching me like you know me, and you don't. Instant turn off gives me the greasy sales car, gold chain salesman vibe I don't want to work with. And I don't want people to have that vibe about me. In fact, I'm not a pushy salesperson. If you'll come to me when you're ready, is my mentality, and it
I,
usually pays off.
I'm interested and I'm thinking about, like, right now I have Billy Gina's marketing in my head, a person I've been exposed to a few times in the mastermind world. And like we have this culture where everything's like AI will do it for you. You can send 10,000 emails, yada yada, build a funnel. And I guess from one business director of business development to another, is the old school way always going to win in the long run, right? Is that idea of building a relationship with somebody, having a product that there's value to, right? It can't just be a relational sale. You have to be able to solve a problem for that person. But are you always going to win in the long run by having that deeper connection with your clients?
I believe so. I mean, and certainly I've sold to people that I don't even know. Like, I've met them once, we've had a conversation, they've gotten a proposal, they like the deal, they sign, right? But then that starts to build that relationship from that point forward. But I think there's just huge value in relationships and networking. I mean, it just pays dividends. It really does. A lot of people use that common term, your network is your net worth. It is. It's reality. I mean, like that point I just gave you, that person would have never dumped that type of information into my lap if they didn't know me, like me,
Right.
or trust me. So,
All right, we're almost 20 minutes into a 30-minute podcast, and I haven't even gotten to talk about what you're doing now. And I really kind of want to dig in because I think it's integral to where we're going in the industry as well. So that there's some things I want to dive in deeper. Tell me a little bit about Jessica Johnson's role at StorSuite, a little bit about StorSuite itself, and what you guys do.
sure. Well, I'm the business development manager. There's two of us. Jamie Boros is our other one. And StoreSuite was four separate companies that merged into one at the beginning of January 2024. So StoreSuite as a brand is still relatively new, but the brands that merged to power what is now StoreSuite have years of experience. So we have four different suites of service that we offer within StoreSuite. website and marketing, full marketing agency. And that was powered by a previous brand called FindView Marketing. That was a siloed brand that rolled into the merger. So we can do Google advertising, digital advertising, any type of advertising, print advertising. You need business cards, we can do that for you. But the main bread and butter on that side is obviously our website services and then the packages that we sell to help with SEO and the paid advertising on the back end. Our second service is tenant protection through Storage Shield is that brand. We're keeping that brand name for Storage Shield because it's a strong brand name, but they still are under the StorSuite parent umbrella, if you will. And tenant protection, as you know, you're protecting your tenants' goods. A lot of tenants want to use homeowners or renters. We really try to dissuade them from doing that because there's exclusions. So that's another suite that we have. Our third suite is third party management. We can manage facilities. We like a hybrid blend in management. We are not full remote like the Coppers of the world, the white labels. While we like those models, it's just not a model that our leadership wants. We do want some level of a manager still present, maybe more at just a reduced level. And then our fourth suite of service is technology. It's a wallet pass that you can put into your phone that is for your tenants to use that gives them common information like their unit number, their gate code, when their payment date is. And then on the back end of the pass, so the pass has two sides of it that sit in your phone and reside in your phone, they can do transactional things with us, make a payment, leave us a review, schedule a move out, upload a document. Maybe they do want to use that homeowners or renters policy. They can upload that declaration page. And what that product does helps communicate with the tenant better and puts the enablement in their fingertips where they're not having to call your manager. I forgot my gate code. They pop open their pass. There's their gate code. We have some really cool game changing features coming with that. So stay tuned on that product line. I'm like, it's game changer level that's about to come with that suite.
So this goes to a further topic that's come up a lot on the podcast, especially in the last 6 8 months. Um, the evolution of the industry. We are not maybe not even an adolescent industry anymore. We might have kind of hit that place of maturity where, how do you, if you're a small, it's kind of used to be known as a mom and pop. Even when I got into it in 2021, mom and pop industry, it's small owners, they own their own facility.
Mhm.
Now you're in a spot where, Extra Space and CubeSmart in the last couple of years really shaken up the industry with the way they're operating. And I'm not judging good or bad, but
Yeah.
it's making some significant difference. How do you compete with that if you are a smaller owner? Maybe you even own 5 10 stores, Extra Space, couple thousand. You talked about website and SEO and technology. I mean, their ability to implement and adapt in that environment.
Yeah.
How do you compete in this day and age if you're a smaller operator?
Yeah, while I'll say it's tough, it is absolutely doable, right? What I tell those smaller owner operators, the things that I would say some of the larger players aren't doing is the community involvement stuff. You got to get out in your community, you got to shake hands, you got to kiss babies. And I think when your community knows that you're the local owner of that facility in the community, they're more likely to come to you than going to a big box retailer in their mind. They want to deal with the local guy, they want to shop local. So, community involvement's a huge space that a smaller owner operator can own. That I think some of the big players certainly they dabble in that space, but they are not going to own it like somebody that says, I, Jessica Johnson, own the facility 5 minutes from your home that you're renting from. They don't have the ability to say that. So I think there's value there. Um, it's and having the right tech stack. You don't need to go super far when you're in more rural, more mom and pop mentality. Have a tech stack that your tenants are going to adapt to and going to use.
I love that. It's interesting. You're the second person that's brought up that idea on the podcast about community involvement, and I've done this over 100 times, and it's only come up twice when I talked about adapting to the new environment. Shout out to Jesse Lamb, who I'm sure will watch this at some point, who was the old CEO from Strat Properties,
Yeah,
said the same thing. And like, look, if you're going to compete today, you got to compete on a granular level. You've got to do things. You've got to operate in a way that's different from the big REITs and big private equity groups that have, that own facilities in your market. So fantastic, and shout out to you guys. This becomes a very natural transition to me for another area that I wanted to talk with you on the podcast, and I've been very fortunate over the last 6 months to have a bunch of incredibly strong women in the self-storage industry come and join me.
That's
That's been
awesome.
something that's been important to you. That in I know you're super involved, obviously the board of the SSA in Florida and Michigan, and involved nationally all the time in speaking, but particularly when it comes to women in the industry, that's something that you've sought out, networking with, but also doing things to help promote women in the industry.
Yeah. I am part of the Women's Council. Anyone at the national level should absolutely join the Women's Council. It's completely free. We have events that are designed for the women of the industry to get together. Because let's face the reality, this is a male dominated industry, but women are becoming a little bit more impactful, and we are starting to get some more market saturation, if you will. So, yeah, I am passionate about it. I have been past in discussions at tables that are full of men, meaning they talk amongst themselves and I get excluded. So I've been on the receiving end of it. And that's, I think, what has really excelled me being passionate about the strong female leaders that are in our industry. And there are a lot of them, and there are more coming. So you guys watch out.
I love it, and I'll raise my hand and say I'm guilty. I think I was 60 some odd episodes in before I finally got smart, but been very lucky to have, Jennifer Downer and yourself, and Anna Saradziardina, and some very very strong women, Anne-Marie DeCoster, in the industry, and it to the point that there are some, to a person, like I just named five people, brilliant, like just really, really sharp and intelligent people that have something to bring to the industry, not just to, not to fill a role, but to really further what it is self storage is doing.
They do, and I love our women's events. We've had like Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders come and talk to us just about like their experience. We've had some really good speakers, high level people like Alyssa Quill and Tamara from NSA. Come and talk to us about like their experience and how they bootstrapped their way and the challenges that they had, being a female in a male dominated industry. It does pose its challenges, but again, there's a lot of strong women in this industry, and I'm happy to know many of them. I'm friends with a lot of them too. So,
I don't know what. Another question I'm going to kind of, this is a diversion, but I'm really good buddies with Matt West, who's very close to John Maines, who's somebody I've never met before. But
what?
Matt, I think when we were I can't remember, I think we were in National Harbor for the SSA when John decided to do owl tattoos at the SSA show. For anyone who wanted to get it, I'm interested to know when StorSuite's bringing back the tattoo booth at a SSA show.
So when SSA has a national show in Nashville, we will probably bring that back because Turk, who was the
The
tattooer, he's a famous tattooer too. He's been on,
Yeah,
I forget the name of the show. Oh my God, John's going to kill
Ink
me.
Masters.
There we go. Thank you for saving me. Yes, he's been on Ink
Yeah.
Masters. He's a sickly talented tattoo artist. He resides in Nashville. So I think we've talked about the next time we're in Nashville for a national show, we'll absolutely have Turk come back. Yes, I do have an owl tattoo. And yes, I did get the owl tattoo when I still worked at the SBOA
SVOA.
for StorSuite, but that's because John and I are such good friends. He offered it to me. I love tattoos. I'm covered in tattoos. And I said, sure, I'll take another tattoo. And lo and behold, I think that was my marking that led me into the StorSuite decision. So it was
I love it. I love it. I love it.
an opinion.
Listen, Jessica, just gonna take a second and just
Yeah,
again say how impressive from afar, and this is my favorite part of the podcast. I can now call you a friend, and really have some deep insight into who you are, and having spent a half hour just talking about you, it makes me happy to get you know that much better. But
yes,
from afar, just want to tell you that it's really cool to see, the energy level that you bring on a daily basis to this industry. This is the greatest industry I've ever seen. I'm 51 years old. I've done a whole lot of different things, never seen anything remotely like it. And there are a lot of people that contribute to that. I would just say, grateful to you because you're one of those people when I think about self storage. Why do I love it so much? And why is it something I look forward to doing? That energy and that enthusiasm that you bring is definitely a big piece of that. So that's a greatly appreciated.
I cannot thank you enough for saying that. I appreciate those kind words, and I want to echo that sentiment back to you. I love
Appreciate
all
it.
the public facing people in self storage. We're just helping bolster the industry and make it better. And we're doing the things we should be doing, right? And you're absolutely doing it as well. So thank you for your presence and doing stuff like this because look, this is a labor of love. My podcast series was a labor of love. Wasn't getting paid on that series,
Yep.
but the relationships and
Yeah.
things that happened after the series, now I'm getting paid because of that, if that makes sense.
1000%. This is not something I do because someone's stroking me a big check for doing a podcast. I am not Joe Rogan. Nobody's paying me for this. But to your point earlier, it's relationship value. And quite frankly, I tell this to people all the time. It's the best ROI I've ever gotten in anything I've done in my life, even from a financial standpoint, because it just creates relationships that end up becoming financially beneficial. So labor of love for sure, and didn't set out to do it expecting that to happen.
Yeah.
But so grateful to be able to contribute something to this amazing industry because there's so many great people that have been willing to help me out when I literally knew nothing, right? When I didn't know basic terminology, let alone, anything important. So grateful for you. Thanks so much for joining. This
Likewise.
episode actually is going to premiere on the Wednesday night at ISS. So I'll be probably hanging out with you when this goes live. So we'll get a chance to say hi in person. Can't
Well,
thank you enough for showing up.
yeah, thanks for having me. I always love doing these. Your energy is contagious. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend. I love it.
Uh, Appreciate it. Listen, that's it for this week's episode of the Defining Your Niche podcast. Anything of value you got, please give a like, hit subscribe. You're going to see all Jessica's information so you can get a hold of her and get information about StorSuite. That'll be scrolling down across the bottom of the page through the whole episode. And we'll be back next week with more. Look forward to seeing you guys.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Dad.